organization and production management. During last winter, as an experiment, I introduced active learning method into my classroom because I wanted to diversify my lessons and try to boost the creativity of my students. I implemented the mind map method with the aim of improving problem-solving skills. This method was used in the 2 sessions. Students did the project in every class. Each project concerned a selected engineering issue that affects a real case situation. It was very important to find the best solution of analyzed problem in order to increase the number of produced parts, productivity, the capacity of machine or resource consumptions. In previous years, when I conduct classes in a traditional way, students often presented various solutions that have not always solved the problem in a comprehensive way. They didn't have tools that would make their work easier and, above all, systemize their tasks. Active learning method helped to investigate a problem more thoroughly, to get to know its characteristics and thus find more effective solutions. In the course of my classes, I implemented the mind map method. In my opinion, mind maps are very useful for in-depth analysis of the problem, but also they help to form a holistic view of possible causes and its likely solutions. A wide and complex analysis of the problem is important in solving engineering problems. During the classes, students solve an engineering problem. Each group solves the same problem. Students draw a mind map in order to find the possible causes of identified problem or their solutions. Often a problem arises from several causes rather than one, so using the mind map allowed to build a tree structure showing the ramification of that problem. Thanks to it, students carry out the analysis in a comprehensive way. They find many sub-causes, the connection between them, and choose adequate solutions. The class starts with short introduction and explanation of basic principles of using mind map method. It's about 10 minutes. The next 10 minutes are used to present the problem to be solved. At this point, the students start to draw a mind map with flipchart cards and markers. Each 4-person team works independently. At the beginning, students identify the main problem, name it, and put it in the center of the flipchart card. Next, they drew the branches of the problem, representing its main causes or key possibilities of solving it. It is good to label each branch with short phrases or keywords that uniquely identify the cause or solution. Then students draw subsequent branches. It is good if the individual branches are visualized in some way, for example, the use of different colors, pictures, diagrams that stimulate the imagination of team members. In my opinion, the contact with group members, like exchanging views, opinion on possible causes or solution, itself has an impact on stimulating creativity. Just like during brainstorming, the ideas of other people stimulate students to give the creative ideas. They can also develop or supplement the ideas of their predecessors. Thanks to that, they indicate solutions that better respond to the examined problem. Further branches are added until all team members think that all the solutions were found. When students draw a mind map, the teacher is available for each group, answers questions about the guidelines for drawing a mind map or correctness of specific identified causes and solutions. The students submit essay in the next class and they are subsequently checked by the teacher. In the following week, I present the main advantages and disadvantages of the drawn mind maps, the correctness of its application, and the possible elements to improve. The mind map itself is not an element of assessment, but it is an element which helps to meet the criteria assigned to essay more fully. Students are also consulted once a week when they can obtain additional information about the work they have done and ask more questions. They take part in consultation if they need additional explanations. One of the main reasons for using mind map was to better understand the problem and identify the causes, but also the connections between them. The students were able to highlight and describe the relationship between the elements of production system and organization of production processes, which are some of the learning aims assigned to a subject. It is also easier for them to identify the potential solutions, assess their usefulness for the enterprise, or the possible risks and barriers in its application. In comparison to the previous years, the students identified more solutions of the problem and described them more correctly, which resulted in a more positive assessment of students' work. As a part of the lesson path, students must prepare an essay in which they present a solution to presented problem. They prepare it in 4-person teams outside of classes and hand it in for evaluation in the following week of classes. The essay consists of 4 parts: literature analysis, diagnosis of the problem, developing potential solutions, and conclusions. I didn't change the evaluation criteria because the mind map wasn't one of the elements being evaluated. Mind maps were prepared by the students as posters, and thanks to them, essay better correspond to assessment criteria. The papers were more concrete, factual, and offer solutions closer to correctness. The student statement didn't consist only of general statements like improving the production process or have good employees, but pointed to specific actions such as rescheduling, assigning tasks to employees, extending machine time in order to minimize the impact of the bottleneck on the process throughput. The change was visible in the key elements of the essay, such as the diagnosis of the problem and developing potential solutions, but also in conclusions. Using mind map method was very useful in the effective organization of teams work. Mostly students knew how to group and present the arguments according to the established criteria for essay assessment. They knew what kind of argument should be used to diagnose the problem or to find the solution, but previously they were random and didn't investigate the problem in a comprehensive way. Making a mind map allowed to systemize these activities and assign appropriate solution to the identified problem. That is one of the main strengths of the conducted pilot project. It was also easier for the students to reach the assigned learning aims for the subject. Thanks to the construction of the method, which shows the connection between individual components, students learned about the links between the analyzed element of the production system. Students also like the new form of classes, which provide relief from standard auditorium lectures. In presenting the weaknesses of the conducted pilot project, I will focus on 3 elements. The mind map method requires extra time for work done by student as well as the teacher, who should explain how to organize the work using this method and also the rules of its application. The students complained a little that they had to do the additional work apart from writing an essay, but in my opinion, developing a mind map affects the better assessment of the prepared essays. During the classes, I didn't have to use a significant number of additional equipment. However, in order to make a mind map, students had to use the flipchart cards and markers. In the future, I would like to conduct such classes with the use of computer software. so I would need to have the access to the computer laboratory with a special application, as well as to divide classes into a smaller group. At Warsaw University of Technology, we can conduct laboratories for up to 12 people. However, in my opinion, the benefits from the application of this method far outweigh the necessary efforts. The students were very pleased with the new form of classes introduced. I think that seeing the improvement of the results of student work, I will utilize the new method in my classes next year. I think it was also easier for the students to do their work. They have improved their abilities to identify the causes of the problem and show the connections between them. Most often, these causes were their tacit knowledge, which was difficult to communicate to their colleagues. Now they will be able to systemize the information and show concrete arguments to their teams. It would also help to increase the knowledge on the subject. The students were very involved in drawing a mind map. They often focus on the precise display of their solutions, clarifying them by decorating the illustration. In my opinion, those situations prove that they were truly involved in its creation. Of course, there were some teams whose involvement was at a lower level, but they were a minority. I think that using the creative methods to support the students' abilities is very helpful to them, but also to me as a teacher. As I mentioned above, I want to introduce this method into my courses. The participation in the program has enabled both me as a teacher to conduct my classes in the most interesting way and the students to develop their soft skills in engineering studies.